How is it going? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jeff, aka SonOfMar, PlayStation Network. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to XOXO to PlayStation. Thank you guys for watching. First things first, I'm going to start streaming again soon. Whether it's through YouTube or through Twitch, haven't decided yet, but SonOfMar is coming back connected to this channel. Anyway, I have a new headset. I went and bought some HyperCloud, the Revolver headset, and so far, fucking love it. I need to work on the mic a little bit just to make sure like I shouldn't have to have it like right next to my fucking mouth, guys. So for this video, I initially had the microphone, but too much of the moisture in my mouth got caught up, and it bothered me even. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna scrap the audio for that. And on top of that, the PlayStation camera didn't record the video while I was playing. So the shitty thing is, if I ever want to do gameplay videos, basically I can't do it in the moment. Otherwise, I'll have to be streaming basically. So from now on, basically, whenever I play a game, I have to go in knowing it'll basically be review style or commentary after the fact. Anyway, that's sidebar. That's housekeeping. Whatever. I haven't really done a actual focused game video in a while. I've mainly done studio conversations and games conferences and things like that, which I'm gonna keep doing. I enjoy making those. Yeah, I'm gonna start actually advertising those because I want people to watch them. And you guys don't, if you haven't noticed, I don't do a ton of editing. That said, it's one of those things where if you guys say it might help if you edit a little bit, I'll start doing it. But anyway, I got finally around to playing the Knack 2 demo the last couple days. I played it 2 or 3 days ago. I played it on normal, just to play through, just get kind of my bearings and whatnot. And as you can tell in this gameplay that I recorded, I am playing on very hard. And let me tell you what, very hard, it's not a pushover. It reminded me of the first Knack, where the first Knack had some points where it's like, man, this fucking blows. Like, you have to be really good at dodging. You have to be very patient, in a way, in terms of combat. It reminded me almost of like Neo combat, where you have to be kind of like patient and pick your moments. You have to take individual Dark Souls mentality. You take one at a time and you dwindle down the numbers. That said, usually I try and go, if you can't tell, those knife throwing bros on very hard, they're a fucking pain in the ass because they could kill you in basically 2 to 3 hits, and they can basically stun lock you while you're in the air sometimes. Same thing with the staff guys. The staff guys, they'll track you sometimes if you're not, like, it took me a little bit to get used to them. And, if you can't tell what's going on in this gameplay, I'm going to go over a lot of it. And then there's plenty of deaths that I had. But, anyway. So, Knack 2, overall, walking away with a pretty positive impression, to be honest. Like, granted, I wouldn't call it an apologist, but I'm a fan of the first one. I thought the first one got a shit ton of flack for some warrantable reasons. I'll give it some reasoning of, like, yeah, makes sense. But for the most part, I actually don't agree with a lot of the criticisms. A lot of people are like, well, the story sucked. I'm like, it wasn't that bad. It's just, it had a lot of holes in it. Because people talk about the story being like, oh, it's just absolute dog shit. Like, there was no story, basically. There was one. It wasn't amazingly told, and it was very kid-friendly and cheesy and goofy and fun. It was very reminiscent of old-school PlayStation, old-school Nintendo in a way, where it was basically just very brief, to the point, didn't have, anything flashy, and it left a couple things desires. And it had a very throwaway, but very, easy to recognize villain from the get-go. And then, but the problem with Knack, and I'll agree with this sentiment, that Knack as a whole wasn't, a mascot. He's not. He's a fun little brawler game, because that's what Knack is. Knack is a brawler. And, he's a fun, little character to play, but there wasn't a lot of personality because you never really knew when Knack could actually talk, when he wasn't able to talk. And he didn't really, even when he talked, he didn't have, like, an actual personality to him. And there weren't a ton of characters that were amazing either. So, in the grand scheme of things, the story, yeah, I get where people are coming from, but at the same time, I walk away going, it was serviceable. And the characters were serviceable. How was the gameplay? The gameplay, for the most part, was fun. It had problems. One of my problems was the fact that, for instance, on the DualShock, right? It used pretty much the entire front, but ignored the back, right? It didn't do anything with the L1, R1, R2, L2. Like, nothing with the triggers, nothing with the shoulders. And even on the face of the controller, it didn't do much. There's a joke that's in the game at the when you unlock the ability to do a heavy punch by holding circle using relic power, which is in the bottom left. You'll notice like a little like triangle thing with a circle around it. I think that's relic power. I'm fairly certain that's how you upgrade yourself basically through the game, because now there's a RPG skill tree and growth in the game, and you collect relics from the boxes and from beating the crap out of people and whatnot. And you unlock abilities that way. I remember the first game, it had no real unlock system like that. It had the gadget system and the gem system, which, from all intents and purposes, that is coming back. I collect a gadget in this that is basically a building device to making a sunstone. So basically, when you collect enough sunstones, you can have the ability to do with the bomb explosion, basically, and it amplifies it. And it's another gadget, and gadgets are coming back. As far as I understand, gems are coming back, so that's gonna be interesting because it unlocks variant knacks, which are really cool. Like diamond and vampire knack and all that kind of stuff. And I really love that part. I did. Granted, mining for weirdly enough, diamonds weren't a huge problem for me. It was the damn emeralds that were not. Was it the emerald? It was the green ones. I think it was emerald, but it was the green one that gave me the most problem, because I remember I had to grind for those. And I remember it made me mad almost in a way, because I was like, every box that I was getting, I was either getting a diamond, the ruby pink one, and every once in a while I would get the green one. And I was like, I need 3 more. Just give it to me, please. But I got to platinum eventually, and it took a lot. Like, I played that game like 4 times in a row, even after. And I played it, and that's like one character build, like, because you can't carry that stuff over. So I didn't even do the hardest difficulty by that point. I was still trying to get all the other variants done. So when I did do the next playthrough on the hardest difficulty, I could do Diamond Knack on New Game Plus. So I was like, I gotta keep grinding. But I'm getting off topic talking about Knack 1 in the form of, getting on the sidebar. But basically, Knack 1 was pretty limited combat-wise. The joke that I was talking about earlier was I don't know what the girl's name is yet, but she's kind of like this princess of this community that you're fighting in with the temple and everything. She basically says, it's hard to imagine that you saved the world with 3 punches and a kick. And the kid that you hung out with in the first game, he's grown up, but he's still with you, and he goes, and he can jump, and that goes, hey. It's like, but really though, that's how the first game was. It was so limited in terms of being a brawler and a platformer. If the biggest sin of Knack 1 was the fact that it was trying to be a brawler, but didn't really fully embrace it, and so it didn't have combos really. It had combat, and it was kind of fluid in terms of the right joystick dodge system and stuff like that, but it wasn't really an actual brawler because it didn't have heavy attack and slow attacks. Pretty much it was punching and you did superpowers basically. And superpowers weren't even all that amazing either. Like, you had the whirlwind, which shows up in this again, and the bomb, and then you basically launch your entire body for like a big ass projectile shot, right? So you had 3 versions of the ability to use, and they weren't, all of them were fine. But I recently rewatched some gameplay of Knack 1. I'm like, wow, it wasn't a bad game by any means. I would personally have given it a very low 7, high 6, which is an okay game. Like, very much so an okay game. Amazing? No. But it has a lot of promise, and everyone, I remember when Knack 2 got announced, everyone's like, why the fuck are they doing a sequel to this? And I went, you know what? It sold strong as a launch title. And why not? What's the loss here? This could potentially do a turnaround and be really good. Remember back when Assassin's Creed came out, and that was an okay game, but had plenty of fucking problems? The sequel came out and ended up being pretty damn great. Actually, one of the best games from the last generation. Am I saying this is going to do the same thing? No. But it has the potential to be something pretty damn good. And in a period of time, this year that needs a game to kind of eat some stuff and to kind of build that catalog even more, to give a reason of, hey, you should get a PlayStation over an Xbox because, hey, yeah, Knack 1 was kind of a joke, but guess what? Knack 2's not bad. And you combine out the fact that in September, within the last couple months, you had a bunch of other games come out. It just adds to this big ass catalog that people can brag about. That's only on PlayStation, right? But Knack 1 again, I could harp limited. Even though there are a lot of things I loved about it, and still love about it. It seems like Knack 2 is taking a lot of the things I loved about the first one and really running with it, and that makes me so fucking happy. It does. It makes me so fucking happy. For one thing, the combat hasn't changed a bunch, which is a good thing because the things that they expanded on were things that were necessary. It kept the things that worked. People might, dog the dodge system, but I think it works. It makes sense. It has fixed cameras that rotate properly in arenas. It works like a brawler. You don't need to have a movable camera, in my opinion, in this kind of game. Have it fixed that kind of rotates depending where you're at, and this rotates a lot more than the previous one, so it works like this. It works actually really well with you. It works based off of where you're at, and it doesn't make you feel tight or anything. So I think the dodge system works. The cool thing about this game, so square is still punch. If you hold square, you can do a multi-punch. So you do the little beat 'em up and then you do a final big blow. So it actually works pretty well. I like doing it. You have double jump now. You have a hover system. So if you jump and hold X, you spin around and hover. Triangle, as of right now, doesn't do anything, but I'll get to that here in a second. My theory of where the game is going to develop into later. And circle is kick. If you hold circle, if you've unlocked the ability, which you do in the demo, you do basically a supercharged heavy attack, which breaks the shield, so it's a big-ass punch. Super effective, And it works really well in combat, and it basically KOs motherfuckers. Anyway, the best thing about it, the thing I'm most excited about, the shoulders have stuff to do. I don't know about the triggers. Triggers, I don't know yet. I'm hoping they have stuff to do too, but at least the shoulders have something to fucking do, right? The left shoulder button, L1, is a block mechanic, and it works as a parry system. So basically, you can sit there and block, and you can take a few hits on it, right? Like, for instance, at full health, I think the block can take, 3 or 4 projectile hits before it basically just breaks down and you have to actually dodge. In terms of projectiles, if it was an actual hit, some of them, it can take 1 and they'll be done. Other attacks, it'll just break right fucking through it. Like the other relic beings that look like Knack that use the green power, if they have their fizz powered up, it'll break through that shit and KO you basically. Especially if you don't have the Sunstone charge meter at all, which is kind of a shield system now. Which I'll touch on that in a little bit, but yeah. Anyway, so. And R1 basically is the default change size feature. So at any given moment, you can change your size, big to small, big to small. Like at any given moment. That's what Triangle used to do. Basically, you would go bearskin, invisible Knack, or you would build back up, right? Well, now it's the R1 button, and you basically go from big Knack to small Knack. You don't even go invisible Knack, if you will. You go just small Knack. Triangle, I think, is reserved for the skill tree to basically become a long-range ability. So it gives you, a long-range shot ability. It's not going to do a ton of damage, but it's going to give you the ability, to fire back at some guys. And it gives you a little bit of diversity in terms of punch, super punch, and then shoot. Because you knock them pretty far away, you can shoot them to continue the combo, right? So I think Knack 2 is embracing a lot of the flaws that the brawler system had, and it's looking at some features that it could do and goes, hey, we could be a stronger and better brawler. How are we going to do that? We're going to actually embrace combos. We're going to have heavy and light attacks and punch and kick and whatnot, and we're going to have a range ability. It's not going to do a lot of damage, but it's going to give versatility to the combat. At least that's what I think. Especially with the parry and block system now. And on top of the triggers, if they do anything, I don't know what they would do. My theory, the working theory that I currently have right now for what the triggers could do, is they're tied to the Sunstone activation. So one trigger does one superpower and the other one does another, or if you hold them, they combo to so that's how you choose between them basically. But anyway, regardless, the controller for sure has a much bigger feature and more versatility, which makes me really happy. That was one of the biggest complaints I had with the game. You know, AI seems way smarter. One of the things that bugged me a lot, but also I really liked, is that in very hard, they know when you're low health, and they will fucking be reckless towards you. So one of the things I noticed was with the two relic beings, or better yet, the two knife bros or two baton dudes, or the shields, or really any of the AI at any given moment. If they see you damaged, they will rush you and actually try and pin you, and all work basically together to attack you. It's actually kind of like it shows really good AI in my opinion, to be perfectly frank. So, I mean, but in general, I think the AI seems a lot more intelligent. They seem more reckless. They seem more ruthless. And overall, they work better together. So, I'm pretty impressed with the combat. Combat-wise, this game seems like it's made a lot of good adjustments. And from all the demos I've seen of other sections, it seems like the skill tree seems really interesting. And actually pretty in-depth for the most part. It seems like the combat has a lot of versatility to it. My hope is that it has that, they embrace the full-on we are a brawl, because it also seems like they embrace the platformer sections too, right? Even that brief section of going between like the barbs, like the swinging blades and all that, it seems like they understand, hey, we can make this a game of platformer too, and do a better job at that. We can make it a little bit harder. We can, because people still want to do that. We're in an era where nostalgia still reigns. People still want to play games that have some type of platformer aspect to it, even with a brawler. And it worked in Knack 1. We just need to do a better job of it. And it seems like that's what they're doing. Especially from the demo that I saw from E3, where it had the split path where you could do the easy, or you can do the more challenging route. And a challenging route has, I would assume, more reward to it. Has the ability to get potentially a chest, or maybe not. It might lock, they might not want to do that to newer people. I don't know. I would hope they actually kind of do that, at least to reward players, or in the very least, maybe there's a trophy for that. You never use the safe path. You always do the challenging path, right? And so maybe like call it like no safety net required. But anyway, but it seems like they've listened to the feedback. For the combat, for the platforming, for the gameplay. Sound is still great. The game looks beautiful. I don't care what anybody said. The first one is definitely one that I even said. I was like, this game sounds gorgeous. And it's one of the few games that actually use the speaker initially, besides Resogun. Like, there weren't a ton of games that were like, hey, we're going to use the PlayStation speaker on the controller for some cool stuff. And that's what the Knack did. And some of the other games did too, and some games still do. And I love that because it's such a cool, immersive thing that kind of makes you go, whoa, fuck, cool. And it's the same, and I think, Knack 2 is doing the same thing. And I like that a lot. I love that, actually. And the view, the graphics, if you will, Knack 2 looks gorgeous. Flat out. Looks gorgeous. Granted, it's not technically a technical powerhouse. It's not going to make the PlayStation Pro work super hard for 4K and whatnot, but it's still, it still works pretty hard. It's a game, and it's gonna make the PlayStation earn some of its shit. And I personally think it looks amazing. So sound design, basically everything has been an improvement, and plays and looks and feels even better than the first one. But the big caveat that I don't know yet, because I don't know. The trailers aren't really giving much away, and I haven't heard jack shit. The story. I don't know if the story is going to be much of an improvement. The question is, do you really need it to be? I would personally argue you do to an extent. I think that is important that the story does get better than the first one. The first one was pretty basic, was pretty, I wouldn't say lame, but it was definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of meh. It was fine, it was serviceable, but was nothing to really write home about, and it wasn't really much to talk about. So my hope is that they definitely take this story a little bit more seriously. I don't know who's writing the game. But I have high hopes for this game, especially at a $40 price tag. If it's as long as the first game, and in the very least, it does fix the majority of the issues I previously had, and really a lot of people's issues from the first game, this game's gonna do pretty damn well. I remember the first game, it got like a either 60 or like a high 50 on Metacritic, and I remember the user score was like a 7.57, and people were like, the critics are being a little harsh on this game. It's not that bad. It's actually not. It's pretty good. It's the same thing, I think, with this game. I think that I said, or not the same with this game. I think that's the benefit of this game. It's kind of almost like you go in with low expectations, and I think this is gonna definitely exceed everyone's expectations. But you have to go in expecting the same kind of game the first game was. If you didn't like the first one, you're not gonna like this one. It's the same fucking game, basically, right? So it's just an improvement almost every way. Now, lastly, two things I didn't mention now that I think about the Sunstone. If you can't tell, the meter works as a shield now, so it drains away to kind of block for health damage now. Really cool system, works well. I like they implemented that because I remember in the first game, you just collect sun shit, and especially New Game Plus when you get the upgrade to where you can collect even more. It just seems like you're just hoarding it for no reason sometimes, even on the hardest difficulties. So I'm glad that that works as almost like a buffer now, and I hope that you get more gauges as you go. I'm also curious if it still does superpowers now. And lastly, I'm not sure how I feel about the super mode. It's cool. It seems good. The invincibility seems great. It doesn't seem like you're doing that much damage output, though. But I don't know if that's the point. I think it might just be an invincibility period, and you just beat the shit out of everyone as fast as you can. But either way, pretty fucking happy with how this game's turning out. So, loving it. Hope you guys like it, too. Hope you guys like the episode. Like and sub and whatnot. And I will see you guys later. Peace.